Do me a favor and take your hat off.
Okay.
It causes a shadow. Okay, looks good. I'm gonna start that restaurant. I don't know if I ever told you that or not, did I?
No, you didn't.
On this lot over here on the corner of 7th and Washington.
Who'd you get to run for you?
I've got a girl that, she'll go around the couch, that manages my apartment building now. She's had a little bit of experience in it, but I know she's a good organizer and everything, so.
How's that gonna fit in with the old, the new kid on the block? And he gonna open up a big steakhouse
I
around here?
don't know. That's what I hear.
Sound like got a mob name.
Yeah.
Castellano or
It is
something?
in a vowel. Okay, what's your real name?
William J.
Joseph? S.
C-U-R-L-O-C-K.
Okay. When were you born?
6/28/47. Now don't get me to confess to murder now.
I won't. But I'm pretty good.
I know you're
You are on tape number 29. Keep this with your stuff. And 100 years from now, when your descendants are rummaging through all that stuff, they'll find this and they'll go down and they'll see that you are on the Portsmouth Public Library on tape 29.
You never know.
Never know. Absolutely right. Well, I'll just ask you, what I like to do really is kind of create a genealogical line. Because I know a lot of people that would be interested in this will be interested in their lineage, that sort of thing. So, Joe, you told me your name and your date of birth. What was the name of your parents?
My dad's name was Clarence Scurlock, and my mom's name was Christine Crabtree.
Her maiden name was Crabtree.
Right.
And what were your father's parents' names?
His dad's name was Ripley Scurlock, and she was, oh, isn't that awful? She was a McDonald, but I can't.
Her maiden name was McDonald?
Mhm.
Okay. Were your folks from this area?
I grew up in this area,
Mm-hmm.
but the Scurlock family came out of Wellston.
Okay. Now, what were your mother's parents' names?
Gladys, and I can't remember them, because that was a strange, might be a case for unsolved mysteries. He took off when my oldest brother was born, and they never saw him again.
Okay.
I can't recall his name.
Okay. Now, you're married. What is your wife's name?
Wanda
Okay, what was her maiden name?
Jennings.
What were her parents' names? Do you know? Didn't know we'd have a test here.
Yeah, you're taking me back.
Hope you get an A.
Louise Jennings, of course, she was, oh gosh, I can't remember.
That's her mother's name?
Yeah, Louise.
Okay.
And Kenneth was her dad's name.
Kenneth, do you remember her maiden name, your mother-in-law's maiden name?
If I could sit here and think about it.
Well, if it comes up during the, while we're talking,
Yeah.
just come right out with it. Now, do you have children?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what do you have?
I have one daughter named Angela.
Angela?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And is she married?
She's married to Rob Stone,
Okay.
and they live out on Rosemount.
Do they have children?
They have one child named Garrett.
What's his name?
Garrett.
Garrett, okay. How old is Garrett?
He's 2 years old.
Okay. Now, you, how much education do you have
I have a master's degree,
in, what was it, in
political science.
political science? From what
Public
school?
administration, majoring in public administration.
Okay. And what did you, where, was that Ohio University or?
Yeah, Ohio University.
And where were you born?
New Boston, Ohio.
And what is your present address?
2700 Patton Place Drive, Wildersburg, Ohio.
Okay. Patton Place. That's over the little hump there
Yeah.
where Patton's farm.
Yeah, you,
Well,
Vasnex is up on the hill there.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Well, my mother and my stepfather still lives around there on the countryside, there all the time. Now you're retired. Retired from what?
I just retired from the Southern Iowa Correctional Facility.
What was your position there?
I attained the rank of what's called mental health administrator.
How long had you been with, this is what we call with the Ohio prison system, Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections, right?
Right.
How long had you been with them?
30 and a half years.
Okay. Did you enlist, were you drafted, or what was the deal?
Drafted.
Drafted, so you went into the Army?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When did you go into the Army?
October of 67.
When did you get out?
May of 69.
What was your rank when you got out?
They call it E4.
Okay. Now, when you were drafted, that was during a period of time we called the Vietnam War, that sort of thing. Were you drafted right after high school, or what was the situation there?
Well, I was in high school when I first saw anything that resembled Vietnam, and I just happened to be in the.
I better get that phone.
Okay.
It might be my wife telling me, giving me orders.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I got one waiting on me now. Are we on the air?
We are, and what we were talking about was that when you were in high school, you heard about Vietnam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I happened to be going through some books, and I started reading this article about a guy who was kind of like a pilot over there, and he was complaining about not getting parts for his airplane, and he was telling how horrendous the place was. You know, there's people getting killed over there. And at the time, I didn't, I thought, man, I didn't even realize our country had been in any kind of conflict. There wasn't anything on the news at that time saying anything about Vietnam. But it wasn't soon after I read that article, man, it just seemed like the bottoms fell out, I think. So all my buddies, they were getting real concerned about, people was graduating, man, they just seemed like they graduated and the military was getting, a lot of my friends was running off and getting married, going to colleges.
Going to school real quick.
Going to school real quick, that kind of stuff. Most of them are, ironically enough, divorced and stuff like that. But so I thought, well, go out, and I wanted to go to school anyway, so I went down to Nashville, Tennessee, and went to an auto adhesive school down there.
Was this in '67?
66 when I graduated from high school. I went to summer '66. And so I graduated from down there, I came back up here and I thought I'd try to get a job. And of course, one thing I found out real quick, to be a diesel mechanic, everybody wants you to have experience. So I couldn't find anything, so Uncle Sam sent me the notice and I got drafted.
So you said you went in October, I think. Okay. Where did you do your basic training?
Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Okay, that'd be about 8 weeks or something.
Yeah.
After your basic training, where did you go?
Went to Fort Sam Houston, combat medic training.
And I believe, how long was that?
It was about the same amount of time.
So you've got about 16 weeks in so far, or something of that nature. What did you do next?
I had a little, when I got out, I don't know why they did this, and it's still kind of puzzling to me today. They had to have so many drivers, so I kind of went to a driver's school for a while, for like 2 weeks, 2 extra weeks.
What'd you learn to drive?
Deuce and a half, Jeeps, convoy, night convoy, and that kind of stuff, which was weird. You go into Vietnam, you don't do much of that kind of stuff. But the driver's license came in handy kind of later on, but because you could drive military stuff, it came in handy later. But so I hung out there for about 2 weeks to complete that, and then I got my orders for Vietnam.
Okay. And did you have any leave time before you went over? 30 days or something?
Approximately 2 weeks.
Mhm. Were you married at the time?
Yeah,
Okay. Did you get married before you went into the service, or?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was kind of like a little in between there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got about 2 weeks to come home.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I'll never forget that on my last night, I was, I was getting, I was really getting nervous because I'd heard a lot of bad things about Vietnam.
Mhm.
And
Of course,
found
being
out,
a combat medic too, you
yeah, I
figured
found
you'll
out I
get.
wasn't, I think they said we're like about 20 seconds after hitting Vietnam, it seems like medics was just getting knocked off left and right. So I had that in the back of my mind for sure.
Mhm.
So I was getting a little edgy and everything, and my dad must have picked it up because he was the one that took me to Columbus Airport. And when I came in, and I was kind of a little rowdy the night before anyway, but I came in kind of late thinking, well, this is my last night, I might as well do the best I can with what I got. So I went out and celebrated and come in late at night, and I was really tired and got maybe about an hour's sleep before they got me up and said, man, you got to go. So I thought, oh, man. So anyway, Dad says, hey, Grandpa wants to, that was my step-grandpa, he said, he wants to go with us up to Columbus. I said, okay, so we went down to New Boston, picked him up, and I was sitting there in the back seat, come about half asleep. Dad said, here, you may need this, and he threw about a pint of Jim Beam whiskey back here in the back. So by the time I got the airplane, I had a lot of courage. So when I got on the airplane, I felt pretty good.
So you flew out of Columbus,
Out of Columbus
to
Seattle,
Detroit,
Washington.
to Seattle?
Seattle, Washington.
Okay. And then that was a direct flight to where?
Vietnam.
Vietnam. Saigon, is that where you land, or?
Cam Ranh Bay.
Cam Ranh Bay. How long did it take to fly over there?
Oh, it seemed like forever, but it was like about an 18-hour thing.
Really? On the plane?
Yeah, and then you got that day.
Okay.
That day forward, I think, is when it's a day forward when you're coming, so you lose a day.
Now, when you're on that plane there, a lot of guys are just like you, aren't they? They're just kind of green. And
yeah, we
pretty.
didn't know what to expect. Everybody had different assignments, medics, infantry, and all kinds of people on there.
You get to Cam Ranh Bay, what happens?
Well, one of the strangest things they did, is when you first hit there, they say, you got bunker duty. So they put me on bunker duty, but
What's
they
that
didn't.
mean?
You just got to sit out there on the bunker and see if any enemies coming into the line or something.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't give us any weapons. I thought that was kind of strange. Here we are in the combat zone with no weapons, but that was kind of strange. But
Did you have any orientation? Did you go through any orientation?
nope, they just said you'd be here for a short period of time, and in a short period of time, this is you got bunker line duty, and there's a few other odds and ends jobs they gave you, and then all at once I got orders to where I was going to go to Chu Lai. I was assigned to the 198th, but they haven't put me in a.
What is the 198th?
That's a light infantry brigade,
Mm-hmm.
battalion.
I'm gonna sneeze
So I
again
stayed
here.
in Chu Lai for. Seemed like everybody was going but me, so I was getting kind of scared. What in the world? What's going on with me? I mean, is there something wrong with me? I got some kind of disease or something? But until this day, I always wonder. I went into the what I guess you could call it the command post, and I was asking that guy. I said, "Man, did my orders come through? What company I'm going to?" And he said, "No." He said, "I said, well, how come it's taking so long?" He said, "Well, how long you been here?" And I said, "Well, I've been here about 2 weeks now." He said, "Man, that is quiet." I said, so he started looking into the papers, and he said, "Oh man, we got you down as a conscientious objector." And I never really thought. I just, I got kind of mad, really. I said, "Man, I'm not a conscientious objector." And he said, "Oh, you're not?" I said, "No." Next day, I got
that out.
Next day, I got my shipping order. But then I found out later on that most conscientious objectors went to military hospitals. They never did see combat. So I think if I kept my mouth shut, I'd probably lucked out.
Probably never heard a shot fired or something.
Probably would have never had the experiences that I did.
Well, you end up with the 198th. That's a light infantry brigade. Okay. Are they attached to a division, or were they a separate unit, or what was the deal?
There's platoons. You got A, B, C, and D, and your D is usually your mortars, and your A, B, C, or your E. Your E is usually the mortar part, and then you got four platoons.
What platoon were you with?
Charlie Company,
Charlie Company?
5th of the 46th, Charlie
Okay.
Company.
Okay. And they were stationed where?
Chulai, right out of
Chulai.
Chulai. We called it LZ Gator.
Where is Chulai in Vietnam?
It's
South
right
of
up on
Saigon?
the border almost of DMZ.
Oh,
Yeah,
we're
it's
talking way
a little
north.
bit- Yeah, it's a little bit south of Da Nang,
Oh, okay.
not very far from Da Nang.
A lot of Marines up there then.
Yeah,
Okay.
we did a lot of missions with the Marines.
And this is a infantry outfit then?
Yeah.
How long were you with that unit?
I stayed with that outfit the whole time I was there,
And how long were you in Vietnam?
13 months.
So you did the whole tour?
I extended an extra 30 days because they come out with an early out, and so I extended an extra 30
What
days.
do you mean?
If
early?
if you had 6 months or less, they just went ahead and let you go home. If you had 6 months or more, the military kept you, so you had to do. So to get out 6 months early, I extended an extra, so I came back with 5 months and so
Okay.
many days, and they just let me go home.
I understand that. Chulai, I mean, what do you have to do there when you're off on your own, Chulai? You got a town to go into? Or?
Well, it's just like, it's kind of like a mini town. It was really kind of nice, Chulai was. I mean, it's on the beach, South China Beach. You got a beautiful beach, got, all kinds of sunshine, got a big PX, a lot of military installations, a lot of special accommodation like plates and forks and that kind of stuff you later kind of get away from as you go out.
Plates and forks you
Yeah.
have even?
Yeah. You didn't know that at the time. You just took it for natural,
Uh-huh.
until you got out there in the boondocks, and then you find out that that's almost like a real pleasure there after you've been away from it for a while.
Did you go into Da Nang?
Been to Da Nang, yeah.
Now, while you're there during your whole year, did you get like your R&R in Bangkok, or what happened?
I got mine. That's another story, but I got my R&R and I went to Australia.
Australia?
Mhm.
Okay. What was that like?
Well, they're very clean people, and one of the things I remember about them, they wouldn't even let us off the airplane till they sprayed us down with some kind of disinfectant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you couldn't go there with boots on. If you had boots on, you can't get off the plane.
Interesting, huh?
I don't know what the big thing about boots.
Did you have your uniform on them, or civilian?
They give you like a khaki outfit to wear because it's hot and everything anyway. But,
Vietnam pretty hot?
yeah, real hot. That's the first thing that hits you when you get off the plane. It's just like a big ball. Boy, it's hot.
Okay. And what kind, is it sweltering? Hot,
Yeah,
you
and
sweat a lot?
And it has a distinct smell, but I found out later on after I come back home, I found out that distinct smell that we all thought was part of Vietnam was actually, we had to burn all of our waste.
Oh.
So you can imagine a bunch of
Yeah.
GIs and a lot of outside Johns, how much burning was going on. And that's what gave Vietnam that kind of distinct smell. I didn't
So-
know that until I talked to some people that went over after all the military had left.
So it was American waste that gave Vietnam
Yeah,
its
yeah.
peculiars.
Of course, it's burning 24/7 over there.
Yeah, okay. Now, what would a mission be like? You go out and stay how long, come back and rest up and go out again, or did they vary in length?
Yeah, they had this thing where they try to give you a hot meal a day, and then they tried to get you, if you had too much combat going on, they tried to get you back and let you stand down for 3 days to kind of like recoup.
Okay.
And a lot of times when you came back on your 3-day stand down, you wasn't with half the guys that you left with.
There were
So-
fatalities, I mean,
Yeah.
there were
A lot of
casualties and other.
Right.
Okay. You were there, let's see, you went in '67?
Mhm.
When did you leave Vietnam?
69.
Were you there during what they call Tet?
I came in right after Tet. Tet was in February of 68.
68.
I came over in April of 68, which I didn't even realize about Tet. Never had no. I just knew that something had happened when I got there that made a lot of people jumpy, because you could tell there was a lot of people scared when I got there.
Well, Tet was supposed to have been a military defeat for the Viet Cong, and could you did you hear them say anything about the fighting's gone down or anything like
No.
that? Or was it the same intensity?
No,
as
we never got briefed like that. That was one of the first things I started learning about Vietnam. It wasn't about a war, who's winning, who's losing. It was about survival. Everybody just seemed to be in a survival mode. How to survive long enough to get home, or try to get wounded just enough to get home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there wasn't anything about, you know, we kicked their butts, they kicked our butts, you know, and all that. It just wasn't it. I didn't run into it anyway.
What was the 198th like? I don't think it
Well,
exists now anymore, does it?
I couldn't tell you the truth. When of course, when I got in the country, well, I should go back before that though. The day before, I'd laid out in the sun, and I hadn't got used to the heat and the sun yet, and I got cooked. I was out there on that South China Beach, and I got cooked. Well, when I got my orders, I shipped out that evening or that day, and I got out there on an outside LZ, and I got, you know, assigned to this bunker. But when I got up, I couldn't move, man. I was completely sunburned. I just couldn't move. I was just in pain. I had my aid bag. They give you a little aid bag and put all this medicine stuff in it. So I had that with me.
And that's for you to treat other soldiers with,
Right.
is that right?
They give you that before you ship out.
Mhm.
But you don't even know, ironically enough, I didn't know what was half that stuff was. I never received any training on it.
Really? At Fort Sam, you didn't get any training
None
in
of that. All World War II kind of training. So it was, you know, some of it was familiar, most of it was just foreign to me. I had learned as I went along and learned from other medics. But anyway, I was back there, and the guy, you know, the guy I was with, and later on, he's a pretty good guy, but at the time I didn't know him that well. And he said, "Hey man, we got our orders, we gotta go." And I said, "Man, I can't move." And he said, "Man, I'm telling you, man, we gotta go." He said, "You don't wanna play around with this sergeant." I said, "Man, just go tell the sergeant I got cooked, man, I can't move, you know, I just keep I'm just burnt." So he said, "Okay, man," he said. So he left. About that time, here comes this sergeant, and if anybody's ever saw the movie Platoon, and he kind of reminds you of that guy in Platoon.
The bad guy.
The bad guy.
The Scarface guy.
But really, he's not a bad guy over there. He was a good guy. But he stuck this M16 right up to my nose, and he said, "Look," he says, "I'm leaving here in about another hour, and I'm going to expect you to be there. If you're not going to be there, then I'm going to kill you." He said, "You understand that?" And I said, "I don't have any qualms, you know." I just sat there, I was shaking in my shoes really, but I didn't want to show too much fear. I said, "Yeah, I understand that." So he left out of that bunker, and I went in my aid bag and found some lidocaine. I put lidocaine all over myself. It worked. I mean, it numbed the skin enough to where I could move. And
There's on the job training, you learned what lidocaine was for.
learn what fear will do to you. Because he had that serious look. I think he would have shot me. Because, you know, later on you realize that, you know, you can't afford to have too many duds in your outfit. They gotta go. Something mysteriously happens to them, or Charlie gets them or something.
Oh, God. Okay, so you went.
I went. And, of course, we flew out in this strange place, you know. It had a lot of the old stuff you see on TV, you know, the old Oriental type stuff. Looked like it had been blown up years ago. Something maybe the French had put in there or something. And when I landed, it was just, I knew it was over when I got out of that helicopter. I mean, everybody was looking at me, and I was looking at them. They didn't know me, I didn't know them. And here I thought I was with an experienced company, and I started talking to them. And I found out they had only been in country 2 weeks. They got shipped right out of Texas, right into Vietnam.
The 198th.
The 198th, yeah.
Oh, God, I bet they were scared.
Yeah, they were kind of pilled too. You know, we were all new. In fact, the first ambush thing we sent out, we walked right into a minefield. We lost the whole platoon almost the first day in the boonies.
Were your officers green too?
Yeah, we started out with a captain, but he didn't last long.
What happened to him?
I don't know. I think they found out, man, the captains just pulled rank and just didn't want any part of it. Because they disappeared. When we first got there, we had every platoon had a captain, and then boom, we went down to just lieutenants and sergeants and sometimes. So very seldom do you ever see a captain.
Was that the first time you were what they call in country, meaning you're out in the field?
Right.
Right. Okay.
And you stay there for probably minimum 30 days, maximum 90.
Okay. Was there combat on that particular time?
No, that came later on.
Now, when they come, and they get you in helicopters.
Mhm.
I mean, they take you in helicopters.
Right.
And they bring you back in helicopters.
Everything's fly in, fly out.
Okay, you don't, none of this marching in, marching out.
No, we don't march.
Okay. So then everybody's green, and that must have been, everybody must have been scared.
Yeah, I don't think anybody had any combat experience. The first night I was there, a guy thought he saw something, he threw a grenade, and it ended up he got hit by his own grenade, and he had a big piece of metal in his hand. He's over there crying around, the old man, about it being hit and everything. And that's the first time I had to kind of like sew a guy up under with a flashlight. I'd never done it before in my life. I just had that little bit of training, and of course I did medevac him out. So and then from then on.
Did he want to get out?
Yeah,
Send me out.
Most of them are looking for that, anything. But that's what built me a lot of prestige after that, when they saw how I did that, then they got a lot of respect for me on that. And they always call medics doc anyway.
Is that what you were called then?
Yeah, they call you from doc the minute you get there to the time you leave.
You can tell me whatever you want to tell me about it. Is there, were you wounded?
I didn't get wounded. I got awarded the Bronze Star for Valor, and how in the world I didn't get hit that day is beyond me. Now that's probably the first. We had a lot of sniper shots and stuff like that all along, and things that get you really tense and tightened up. But the first time we ever actually had a physical hit, and Charlie was there and we was here, was one day we flew in, and we had heard that there was some NVA in there, and we were looking for some kind of place where they were, and was kind of like in a big, probably a river in the monsoon days, but it was just like a running creek when we got there, wide thing, like a big wide river. And we were going up that thing, and we decided we was going to go up like where two big hills or mountains come together. And we just went up on the side, and we just come down off the side and got down in between the two mountains, and boom, claymores and mines and command dead mines, everything started going off. AK-47 fired. I was kind of like in the back, and I could start hearing guys hollering, screaming, I'm hit, and called for medic and all that stuff. So I run up in there and I patch about 6 or 7 guys up and get them out of there, and we do a little shoot back and forth, and stuff like that. You can't really see anything in those woods. All you can just hear the bullets go around you. A lot of injuries from the mines. They tore people's veins up and stuff. But we got them all patched up enough to get them out of there, and I got them out of there. So then we come back to the creek bed, and our lieutenant, he said, well, he's going to call in high explosives up there, and then was probably reform and go back. Well, after you've been there for a while, there's a distinct sound that something has. You get used to it, you know when it's coming in, and you know when it's going out, and you know just about how far that it's going to hit. Well, they had this thing over there in Vietnam that if you got contact, you could call in high explosives. If you didn't have contact, you had to call in what you call Willow-Peter height of burst. And that was just to give you an idea before you hit the high explosive, gives you an idea where it might hit. Well, we had contact, so the lieutenant just went ahead and said, hey, high explosive, shot out. And it didn't take us a second to say, hey, this stuff is coming at us. So, I just had got me a brand new steel pot too, and I thought kind of, because you don't get that kind of new stuff. Everybody said hit the ground, when we hit the ground, it just like the world came to an end. That's the only way you could explain it when artillery comes in. Trees start falling down, big trees just get cut right in half. They start falling down on top of you. But anyway, after about 4 rounds of that coming in on top of us, I could just glance at the lieutenant, and the lieutenant was sending up, he was saying ceasefire, and he said it one time, and that was it, and he was gone. Just a big explosion took him away.
He was vaporized, you mean?
Well, found him in the creek bed out there laying down. He still had the microphone in his hand. Still, it's really a strange sight.
Did they cease fire? Was that enough?
Well, after about, of course, they'd already shot off about 4 or 5 rounds, and there was a lot of injuries in. So then I got up, you know, and a friend of mine from Kentucky, he kept screaming, you know, that he was hit, but I couldn't see. I mean, everything looked that one. I searched all his arms. He said, my leg. I kept throwing his leg, you know. I said, man, there's nothing wrong. I can't feel anything, man. And he said, pick it up. And I picked up his leg, and it almost came off in my hand. It was everything, the bone and everything was the only thing, the top part was the only thing there. Underneath, of course, you couldn't tell it with these fatigues and everything, but that was a weird feeling. So then I patched up his leg and got bleeding stopped on him, and then I went around and patched up a few other guys.
Did they get the medevacs in, the helicopters in to
Yeah,
evacuate?
you know, and I'm sitting around trying to give people morphine that need it, because they give you these little syringes to give people that like they might go into shock. They were real worried about shock back then. So I try to give it, and then you gotta be watching, because if you give them the shot of morphine, you can't operate on them for a while. So you don't wanna give them a shot of morphine, because it may hold them up to be on the operating table. At least that's what they told us. So you had to be very selective who you gave the morphine. Now, if a guy looked like he was in serious pain, though, and you was gonna lose him, you gave him a shot.
So if you gave him morphine, would you somehow tag him or mark him like he's had
Yeah,
morphine?
you're supposed, well, that day I was pretty shaken myself. Actually afterwards I fell apart. As a senior aid man there, it kind of helped me. We kind of talked ourselves through it, but I was pretty shaken. It was the first major combat that we'd had as far as even the company or anybody. So, you know, nobody had any experience up until that time. So I was pretty shaken. We lost over 3/4 of our platoon that day.
And a platoon would be about 40 guys.
Yeah, 30 or 40. And lost our commanding, lost a good friend of mine, who was a radio operator. So there's a lot of stuff you had to deal with that day. But you know, I didn't properly tag them like I should. And I remember a doctor, he called back and he tried to give me a lot of flack about not doing that. And I cussed him out over the radio, actually. And I said, man, you ought to get your butt out here instead of staying back there in the rear, find out what this is like, and then you'll get a good understanding. And I'll give the guy credit. He came out for a couple of days.
Did he?
He did. He come out a couple of days, and he walked around with us for a while, and he did come up and apologize. But I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah,
you don't get that in a combat.
Doctor is usually an officer too, is that correct?
Yeah,
Or captain at least.
Captain at least. But he did show up, and then he understood, you know, some of the things that was, you know, it's not like a World War II where you got a back line, you know, you got time to do things, man. You don't have much time to do all that stuff that you should. So I tried to mark them the best I could, you know. As far as getting the little cards out and just sitting there and writing all this stuff down, putting them on their toes, it just didn't work.
Now, is that the day you got your Bronze Star?
Yeah, I don't know who put you in for this stuff, but it was kind of weird how that happened. I just happened to be back on like a 3-day stand down. Just came in, and they said, "Hey man, you got orders to go over here to Colonel so and so. We got to get you new fatigues and everything." So they sent me over to this quartermaster and dressed me all out, brand new boots and everything like that. And I'm thinking, man, what'd I do? Did I screw up or something? And they flew us up around Da Nang. There was a bunch of us there. We had a big formation of us, and they come out and he presented the Bronze Star to me. Of course, I never had anything.
You're kind of surprised. It
Oh,
sounds
no
like.
one ever really told me, you know. I was just going along with the orders, you know. Wasn't up till the time that the guys started reading the commendations and stuff that I knew what it was about. I thought I'd been in some kind of trouble. Messed up, so.
Well, then after that, how long was that? I mean, you'd been in Vietnam how long before that?
That happened in June, and so I went out in the boonies in around May. So it was about 15 days or 16 days in the boonies.
Wow, and then I guess I can ask what happened. You know, you got, I mean, just one mission after another, then maybe.
Oh yeah, it was just like on the same, almost in the same area. We recouped, and we went up this big mountain, which I'll never forget. We went up this big mountain on the opposite side of where we got hit, We went and climbed up there. It took us dang near 2 days to climb up that thing. It was mountains over there. It was huge.
Did you have a weapon?
Yeah,
Mhm.
M16. And that presents another story too. But anyway, we got up there and it was my birthday, June 28th. And it started to rain, and I had me a nice little air mattress on. Everybody was complaining about sleeping in that creek bed, because that's what we were in, and water was running down on top of them, everybody moaning and groaning. And I was sitting there, and I just turned 21, and I'm sitting there on my air mattress, you know, because most people, you know, when you're humping, you go as light as you can. Some people wouldn't carry an air mattress, it's too heavy. But I thought that's one of the luxuries I'm gonna hold on to.
What do you mean when you say humping? You mean going out,
Going out,
walking, hiking, marching through the jungle?
Yeah, if you walk a few clicks or something, man, you get wore out. So every little ounce counts. And a lot of times you even measure your C rations that way too, you know how many you want to carry.
The click is 1,000 meters, right?
About 2 miles, about a mile.
Mhm.
So, but you know, you get pretty good at what you can hump. But you know, and then one of the other things I like to do is have a dry T-shirt. I always had a T-shirt wrapped up in a plastic bag, because you get tired of being wet and sweaty and all that stuff. So something nice, clean to put on every once in a while is nice. So I kept that a little extra. That was one of the 2 extra things. But anyway, I just had my C rations before, and I forgot about having that little can here. And I was sitting there, and I heard everybody complaining about, you know, the water running over them and everything. They can't sleep. And I thought, man, it's good to have my air mattress. And I just turned over, and I hit that can, and that mattress go right down in the water. So that's how I turned 21, and water running over the top of me in the creek bed.
All right.
So then we come back down there, you know, and they said, hey, you know, you're through here. We got another mission to go to. So, you know, we was waiting. Well, you know, they're called Chinooks, but they're a double prop helicopter was coming in, and we could hear him ground air. It was like a little UH-1. He was kind of like playing a little radio tag with one of the Chinook pilots, and somehow or another we was watching. You know, he come up underneath the Chinook and was going to come up in front of him, but he came up too quick and he hit the top blade of the big Chinook. Well, at the time we just had one leave, so we thought that was full of troops. Says, oh my God, you know. And when that blade hit, it kind of threw it off, and then you could see something right in the middle of the helicopter went and kind of like exploded. Well, I guess it was a drive shaft between the 2 blades, and it kind of exploded in the middle of the Chinook, and then all at once those 2 big blades just quit, and then just the thing started going down like this, just like slow motion, and you could see the back gunner jumping out. You know, he was trying to. He knew he was a had dad, so to speak. So he jumped out, and he was giving one of these numbers, and about that time that thing hit the ground, and just, you know, the flames went and shot to heaven. So, you know, it was just about, you know, it was getting close to dark, so we was getting kind of, you know, we knew we had to get up there and see if there's any survivors. And we knew Charlie saw that helicopter, and he'd probably be in there trying to get some weapons and stuff off of it if there was anything here. So we hurried up and get out there to kind of secure that thing. And
Charlie's what you called the enemy.
Yeah. So we hurried up and got up there and secured the area the best we could and started looking for bodies. And most of the bodies was in the flames. They was just cooked. And then we found the guy that jumped out the back. I mean, the trees just broke him up. He had every bone in his body, but he didn't survive either. And then the pilot, and this was probably one of the freakiest things I've seen. The pilot was on like a big twig, like a big tree, and he was just laying up against it, and the tree was stuck up, clean out the back of it. So I had to put him in a body bag, so I pulled him off the tree, and it was just like a rubber doll. Everything in him was just, there wasn't any bones or anything, just a squash, just like a rubber doll. Put him in a body bag. And he had this nice 45 and a pistol belt. And I thought, man, he don't need that. So I took it. I started carrying it from then on. I thought that was pretty nice to have. And people used to ask me, where'd you get that pistol belt? And I said, out with that pilot. And they used to say, oh man, you're a tough hombre. So I kinda like that too, you know? But,
Did you
so I
carry
started carrying the
it
45 after that.
the rest of your tour?
I got it off of him.
Uh-huh. You weren't able to bring it home, were you?
No, I left it with another friend of mine. I thought, well, you know, it's no good for me anymore, so I had the Vietnamese that made things over there. So I had the Vietnamese make me a nice John Wayne pistol belt. I look
For the
snazzy.
45?
Yeah, I look snazzy as all get out when I was in the.
What's the deal about you carrying an M16 then?
Well, I kept losing them. Every time we'd get hit, I just, you know, I would lay it down somewhere, and then when we got out and everything, I'd forget it, or someone would get it, and I kept losing them. So I thought, man, I can't keep giving Charlie M16s, you know. So I thought I'd try the 45, and I had a lieutenant come to me, you know, and he was real concerned about me just carrying the 45, and he said, man, I said, have you ever shot one of them things? I said, well, not really, I've shot a pistol. He said, well, do me a favor, he says, go out and put you a stick of wood down there and you shoot it and see what you think. Try to shoot that piece of wood. So, yeah, I thought, okay. So that night was on this LZ, you know, and I had this guy from, he's from Ohio. He was a good friend of mine too. He was a sergeant. And so I said, man, the lieutenant wants me to try his pistol, I said. He said, okay. So he put the board up there, you know, and I'm sitting there and I go, boom. And I missed that thing, and I go boom, and I missed that thing, and I kept getting closer and closer, and boom, and I kept missing that thing. I said, you know, I started carrying my M16 after that. I don't know, there's something weird about them 45s, man. They just ain't very good as far as accuracy.
Did you lose any more M16s, or did you remember to get them?
I got a little bit better after that.
All right.
I really never had much faith in the M16s. At that time, they jammed a lot, and every time I get into a firefight, they jammed on me. You know, they still hadn't perfected the bolt and everything like that, like they have today.
Have you stayed in touch with any of your friends you made over there?
I haven't seen one of them.
After you left, that was it?
Pretty much so. And I really don't even remember Vietnam, period. So the only thing
What do you mean by when you say you don't remember?
Well, when I came back, I just blocked it all out. I didn't watch the 6 o'clock news. I didn't watch the 6:30 news. I was like, and at the time I never put it together and started working some of these Vietnam veteran groups. And what I was doing, I was actually just blocking it off. Just didn't want to see it, didn't want to talk about it, you know, that kind of thing. And when I got out, another thing when I got out, I started talking. There was a lot of people that I had experiences that I could talk to that, you know, knew where I was coming from. But then they started disappearing. I don't know what happened to them.
What do you mean, Dave?
It's hard to find a vet that had military experience. I don't know whether they went in, something happened to them, or they went into VA hospitals or what. But when I first got out, there was bunches of them. After about a year or two, they just seemed like it was harder and harder to find somebody who really had combat experience. So I don't know whether it took its toll or what. So I feel real lucky in that aspect.
When you came home, did you fly back to Seattle or Long Beach or what?
Yeah, Seattle, Washington had this thing where they could get you out in 24 hours. They were real proud of that.
So you stepped off the plane. What did you do then? Were you in uniform?
Yeah.
Did you have any bad experiences with civilians and stuff like that?
Well, you know, I didn't really deal with civilians. I had an attitude. You know, when I got back, when I was in Cameron, you know, they come up and the guy, you know, there's something about Cameron too. You're waiting for that airplane, you know. You're scared to death you're going to miss it. So you're up all night. It takes about, some people have been there 3 or 4 days and the plane hadn't landed yet. So, you know, you never want to sleep. You're just scared to death you're going to miss that plane. There's just something about seeing that thing land and being there when it take off. So you stay out there and you just stay out there on that kind of like a corrugated steel kind of thing out there. You just stay out there and watch for that plane all day long. Just hoping it comes in. It's really strange. But anyway, they come by us. One guy come by and got us for, of course, didn't know what it was at the time, but then he lined us all up and he said, give me your ID cards, you know. And he come to me and I said, what do you want this ID card? He said, well, you got KP and I'll hold on to these ID cards until you get the KP done. And I said, well, you ain't get my ID card. You might as well just go get a bunch of troops and try to come and get me. I cussed him out and said, I ain't doing no KP. and I walked off. Nobody came, but I did do KP.
You did or you didn't?
I didn't. But, you know, I was ready to go to war just over that. And I never put that together. That wasn't me. But it was me then.
So fortunately, the plane came.
Yeah, yeah. I was the kind of guy that really loved the action and really loved living on the, you know, actually the sergeant that even threatened, you know, when I first got there, threatened to kill me if I didn't get, we became real good. We done a few things that was pretty bad, probably considering what we did, but, you know, war's war. But we became real close. We had a lot more in common than we realized.
Oh, you say you like the action, meaning combat. But were you afraid too? Scared?
Well, yeah, there's moments that you're, you know, just, that you know, actually the greatest fear you'll ever experience over, as far as Vietnam goes, is the landmines, I think. There's not words to describe what it's like to go through an area you know is landmined. I mean, it's just, that is fear. Because, you know, it's not the fact that you're going to get killed, it's the fact that you're going to get maimed. You know, there's an arm missing, there's a leg missing, maybe both legs missing. That's the fear. That's the fear you have when you're walking through them things. And then when one goes off, I mean, man, it's just, and then the screams. You know, as soon as you hear the explosion, you're going to start hearing the screams. And the screams are horrendous. And then I've seen guys even beg you to kill them. They don't want to go home that way. They say, don't put me on that damn helicopter and kill me.
You don't have to mention this or say this, but the guys that are dying, what do they say?
Well, I really never experienced guys, you know, dying in my hands and everything. I've had some strange things where I thought guys that didn't have that much serious wounds, and then later on they told me that they died back in the back, and I had guys I thought was serious. But once a guy was gone, he was gone. You never saw him again. In fact, we had a little thing in our platoon that if we put somebody on the helicopter wounded, the guy that put him on the helicopter took all of his money and all that stuff. Because the helicopter gunners and stuff will have a tendency to rip you off. And there was somebody in the back would steal all your money. So the guys that, well, I'm always, you know, guys gonna get my money and my watch and stuff like that, it's gonna be somebody I know. So we had a standing thing there. The guy got hit and put him on the helicopter. We took all his stuff.
That was acceptable to the wounded guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, that way he knew he wasn't wrong. And if he came back, he'd be there waiting on him. But if he didn't, then
Did you have that much? A wounded guy would come back?
not much. It seemed like once they got wounded, they never came back. Unless it was a minor, you know. I had one where, well, that sergeant that I was talking about, he stepped on a bear trap one time.
What's a bear trap? We talking about an actual
You know,
bear trap?
yeah. Of course, we didn't know at the time, but this little Vietnamese had been setting out these traps for something or another. I don't know what they were trapping. He walked in and he kind of lucked out though. Went right between his toes. We had the darndest time getting it off. At the time, you know, I couldn't get it off. I couldn't figure out how to get it off because it was on there so tight and everything. And I said, man, I'm gonna have to medevac you off. And he said, man, you're not medevacing me out of here. I'm not going. He said, I'm not going back to no hospital with a damn bear trap on my foot. No way. So I said, well, man. So I sat there and I thought about it for a while. And some guy said, man, what about the M16s? Well, so we put two M16s, bent the barrels and ruined them, but we put two M16s across them and squeezed the bear trap up enough where he got his foot out. He just scratched his toes and everything. Something like that, a guy'd stay. And then he ended up shooting himself in the leg later on.
He did?
With a sidearm.
Accidentally? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then he got out then.
Right.
Okay. Were you there when that happened?
Uh-huh.
Huh.
Yeah, and actually they came out with a special thing and no longer you could, up to that time you could order a special weapon that you liked and you could carry it, but you know, after that it was all military. They put out a special order.
So he had his own sight?
Yeah, he bought it himself.
In Vietnam or he
I don't know, through the mail or something.
Yeah.
I don't know how they got it.
Did you ever see the enemy?
It was one time that I was, and this is strange, I just went out to use the restroom kind of like, and I just happened to be standing there and an NVA walked right by me and I rushed right out and grabbed him.
An enemy soldier.
Yeah, an NVA, North Vietnamese, one of the regulars had black, he had the black, the whole outfit on. But what had happened, he had malaria, didn't know at the time, but he had malaria, and he was a little delirious, didn't know where he was at, and I just reached out there and grabbed him.
So you went out to use the bathroom in the bush, take a crap in the bush,
Uh-huh, and he walks right by me,
and you grabbed him.
grabbed him, yeah, strange,
Yeah. What'd you do with him?
Well, one of the things, you just arrest them, and then, they come and get them, and you never know what happens to them after that either. Put a lot of them on helicopters, some people say they pushed them out, I don't know.
Did he resist, or he was?
No, he was malaria, he was kinda like happy to see us. He was one, I think sometimes that's one reason why they sent him down there, so they can get our medication and get treated.
Oh.
We had one, and it was in the same area, and we lost a lieutenant and several, but that was another, we were looking for a hospital.
You mean an enemy hospital?
An enemy hospital, we'd heard that there was one in the area, and we were looking for it. And every time we get in there real close, we got hit with command detonated mines, AK-47s. And I always remember because they had about, I don't know, it was about 5 or 6
A
companies.
command detonated mine means that somebody is out there watching for you to
You
walk by them,
onto it, yeah.
and they will.
Yeah, and that's what happened, you know, well, actually, it was like, 6 or 7 companies was in there. We was just in one part. And every company was taking a chance going up in there and trying, and every company, we could hear them on the radio, was getting the heck kicked out of them. And then it came our turn. And, so we was going up there, and it was scary as hell. But anyway, they had set a claymore upside down, and our lieutenant had just stepped on it, and they hit the thing, and it peeled him like an apple. Darndest sight I ever seen in my life. It just looked like it's just peeled all his skin off of him. He's from New York. He ended up dying too.
When they put a
We didn't
claymore
get it.
upside down, there's something you stick in the ground. Now,
Yeah.
that's right side up,
Yeah,
right?
and they got the little thing there telling you to put the concave forward, because if
Mhm.
you put the concave this way, it comes back at you.
Yeah.
But evidently, they put this one kind of like down in the ground to go
I
up.
see.
And when it did, the concussion and everything of the thing going on just peeled him. I mean, he didn't have any skin on him. He's just gone, hair, everything.
Did you find the hospital?
No, but later on, we went up in there, and when they decided to give it up, they took off, you know. Of course, I can't tell you how many times we tried to go up in there and how many people we lost. I mean, that was just some scary times there, real fear.
What do you mean they gave it up? The enemy gave up the hospital?
Yeah,
and
they just gave up.
then you were able to occupy the site?
Yeah, we went in there, and when we went in there, they had 2 female nurses in there, and they were real skinny. They were laying over in the corner. They just decided to leave them. And then we found out what they were doing. They were actually bleeding these nurses to give the blood to their soldiers, to keep their soldiers healthy. So these nurses was totally weak, we had to carry out both of them off the mountain. They were just real skinny and weak, all they'd been bled.
What does a NVA hospital look like?
Well, just a bunch of hooches, grass hooches, you know, and they had, you know, the regular old stuff that any other hospital would probably have.
Did they booby trap it?
No, not this one.
Huh. And the only thing you found in there really was 2
2 female.
emaciated or 2
2 nurses.
bled?
Mhm. And they were using them for the blood.
Well, by this time, your unit has some experience. They were
Oh, yeah,
coming-
we're getting real good. We're getting so good that we even got a reputation over there of being left alone.
What do you mean?
As you know, the NVA, you know, we measure the NVA battalions by how they're doing, and they do the same for us. They know our outfits, they know where we're assigned at, and then they measure us the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a fairly reputation over there that if we was in an area, not to mess with too much, because we were heavily armed,
Mm-hmm.
and we knew how we had experience. In fact, we were the only platoon, we had an M60 in the front and an M60 in the back. Most platoons only carried one M60. But when we went out for blood.
You say that's the only time you actually saw the enemy? I mean, did you see you saw dead enemy, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
But that's the only time you actually saw the face of the
the face of them in, you know,
Well,
wasn't
I
any,
wouldn't anyway.
you know, there's a lot of, night stuff, you know, you just don't, you know, they ruled the night, we ruled the day, there's a lot of truth to that.
Did you go out on night ambushes? Did you go with?
Yeah,
Okay. That must have been a scary situation.
yeah, you only got about 4 or 5 guys with you, and you're out there when you're out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't, the people don't even know where you're at, that's supposed to know where you're at.
Mm.
So, you can,
You did medic work and you did infantry work, didn't you? So actually, when they say that you're a medic, you ended up being a medic who had a weapon and used it.
right, but at the same time, you have to realize you're a medic, and you're very important to them. So there was times you had to make a decision to not go this time, and sometimes the guys would get, like one time, and that's probably one of the reasons why it led me to getting out of the boonies. I was tired, I was the only medic alive, and I had a whole company to cover, and I'd been trying to cover, you know, by going out with them, and going out with them, going out with them, and I never, you know, usually if you got 4 medics, you only go out every 4 times, but I was going out with every company, so I was getting more out. And then there was this one company, Bob Hope, and it's one of the things I have a problem with Bob Hope today, I guess.
Bob Hope,
Yeah, he was flying in.
the entertainer, the
doing
big
his, yeah, he
shot
was gonna
entertainer?
fly in there to,
Uh-huh.
was Cameron Bay, he was gonna Chulai. He was gonna fly into Chulai, I think. And one of the things they wanted us to do was secure, you know, they wanted it nice and secure for Bob Hope. So we'd set up, and it's kinda like Christmas time to boot, and this company is about 5 or 6 guys, they were gonna go around the side of this mountain overlooking Chulai and go over and see if they could shake anything loose. And they asked me to go, and I said, no, I'm tired. And I didn't go, and I got ambushed. And from then on, man, I lost a lot of respect that day.
Did you?
Yeah. The guys looked at me like, you know, what good are you, and stuff like that. You could tell, you could just tell by that they wanted the medic to be there. And there was some kind of strange thing, some kind of bond they had about having a good medic with them.
They had a medic though. There's always a medic that goes. isn't
Yeah.
there?
Supposed to.
But they didn't, but they wanted you.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
Well, I was only one. The only other 3 or 4 got hit or wounded or something happened to them.
What do you mean that had to do with?
And we hadn't got any new blood in yet.
Getting out of the boonies, so did you ever go back out on a mission out in the boonies again?
I came in about January, end of January, and I did a few, where I go out and do shots and stuff like that, give shots and stuff like that, train new medics, something like that. But it was kind of like back in the back. I never really was on the front line.
When did you get to Vietnam? When did you first touch down in Vietnam?
And I got there in April
April of
'68,
'68, and you came back
May of '69.
May of '69. Was there ever any dialogue between, I guess the only word I can think of is dialogue, between you and the enemy, or the Americans and the enemy, and would you leave signs and messages for them to see, or things of that nature?
No.
Did you want them to know you were bad, so you left?
Well, we killed them.
That was it.
That was it.
Okay.
We killed them. We were probably one of the few that didn't take any survivors.
How about when our guys, when they were captured? Same? No survivors? No prisoners?
We had guys, you know, sometimes, I don't know what happened to them. They'd go to the field and you never would hear them, but they'd disappear. It's one of the reasons why I think, you know, when they do the missing in action kind of thing, that there might be some of them guys over there. Because they kind of like did get along with the Vietnamese. They did come kind of like into their culture, so to speak. And the Vietnamese liked them, and they could have fit right in their culture very, very easily, and still be there and not be.
So there may be Americans, you say they go out on
yeah,
missions, and they disappear.
They did disappear. There was a significant number of people that they'd go back in the back in the Ville and they'd never see again, and we just logged them off as AWOL. And I had one guy came in, Actually, I got dysentery. I got dysentery real bad. And I kept treating everybody else and kept, and staying back in the back because, again, I was the only medic and I just didn't, I couldn't get enough. I was hoping I'd get relieved so I could go back and get myself treated. But anybody's had dysentery, that's bad stuff. But it got to the point where I couldn't hardly function. I was cramping up so bad and the pain was so bad and I was getting so weak, the diarrhea and stuff, I just couldn't, I was getting to the point where I couldn't make it. So I decided this is it. I went to the company commander, I said, man, I gotta go back and get some treatment. So he said, okay. So I got on a helicopter and I went back. I went back to kind of like a Ford med station. And there was this E6 there. He was a force to be reckoned with. Didn't like him. He's kind of cocky and mean and and I didn't take them kind of guys back then anyway. But I was sitting there in the bunk and this guy come up, and he was real sick. And so at first I tried to treat him with some stuff that I knew about, but there was something strange about this one. This was more severe than I'd seen on just being a regular old stomach type stuff. So I went down and told the sergeant, I said, man, we better medevac this guy out. I said, there's something really strange about this one. I said, it's not a normal stomach ache. So he came up there and he said, oh, bullshit. He said, this guy just got a stomach ache, He'll be all right in the morning. And next morning he was okay. He's dead. Mm. He got poisoned.
He was poisoned?
He was poisoned.
Poisoned by?
Yeah. And I went down, and I'll never forget that day. I went down there and I looked at that E6. I cussed him out. I said, now you go up there and you got a dead body up there in that tent. It couldn't have been alive, and I'm going back to my company because I don't want to see no part of your sorry old butt. Mm-hmm. And I went back to my company. Sicker, still had dysentery, never got a bit of treatment.
Well, who poisoned this guy? Is there any concept?
Well, from what I could gather, the bits and pieces with him coming through and delirious, he had ate something. He had ate something in one of them villages and they poisoned him.
Well, then that being the case, you think?
But that E6 killed him, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Ignored his symptoms.
Yeah. Anybody could see. I hadn't. I'm not a medic. I wasn't a medical person. When I got, I was trained in the military. It was about but I had enough training where I knew, hey, this is a little out of the ordinary. You don't have the sweats and the high fever and all that stuff that, you know what I mean, and the severe pain that he was having just on a regular.
What other? You've got the Bronze Star. What else do you have?
Well, they gave me the Vietnam Service Cross and that kind of stuff you normally get. And one medal that I was put in for, I don't even know what happened to it. There was another time where we had just set up to eat lunch and then bam. And I heard someone yell, I said, man, I can't remember, he was a radio operator. I said, no, I got so-and-so. I said, oh man. So I run over there real quick. He's out there in the middle of, what he was ever doing out there, I don't know, but he was laying right out there in the middle of a rice paddy, just laid over. And everybody tried to get to him, he'd get shot. The sniper had put himself up there on this kind of like big knoll, and he could see everybody trying to, actually, I think he just wanted to wound the guy. And then like the old, knock us off as we get out there and try to help him. But anyway, I saw 2 or 3 guys try to move and they get bent, they get shot at and they go back, So we sat there and said, oh man, he's gonna die. So I said, well, gotta go. So I took off running in that rice paddy. Still to this day, I don't know how in the heck that guy missed me, but there was bullets just soaring all around me. I got to him all right, and I was hiding behind this dike in one of the rice paddy there, and the bullets was just going all over the place. He was just trying to get me like crazy, and I was trying to treat the guy. It looked like he had a sucking chest wound. I was trying to get the plastic out to cover the chest wound and get enough pressure on there where I could get him to. I did the best I could under the circumstances I was in, but I didn't save him. It would have been great if I had him. But so I was pinned down here, for a good while, and lieutenant put me in for some kind of medal then. I never heard anything, so I don't know whatever happened.
You came back in May, and they pretty much discharged you right then and there. I know what I was going to ask you. Did you become involved or immersed in any of the Vietnamese villages or culture or people?
You get good, yeah, you get to talk their language.
Mhm.
You know, there's number 1 and number 10, you know, there's number 1, what they call the number 1 Vietnamese was basically just as clean and as cultured as we are.
Mhm.
And you can really relate with them kind. But then there's the other kind, the number 10, you know, that live in they're very poor and they're live in the hooches and eat the rice with the maggots and stuff already in the rice because there's more to eat, that kind of stuff.
Was there a big economy geared toward the GI, like
Oh, man,
bars and the prostitution and all that kind of stuff in the cities?
In fact, when I was over there, and later on I had an instructor, and when I was going to my master's degree, I didn't know at the time, but he was telling me he's part of it. They had a big investigation there was a lot of brass running hooches over there, and they had gambling things set up.
What do you mean by hooch?
They had
Prostitution.
prostitutes,
So a lot of brass would be a lot of the big shot
colonels
officers and so forth
captains
were actually
operating
operating.
prostitution, and making good money on
I
it.
bet they were. What's the, I don't know how to answer that. What's the worst thing that ever happened
As far as
to you? The military? Going to Vietnam?
well, you know, at the beginning I would say yeah, but you know, when having survived it, it's really made me a lot stronger. You know, so it's like everything, it's got its strengths. I wouldn't want anybody else to face what I faced or go through what I go through because, you know, to this day I don't know how it came out of there sane. Because, you know, there's not a Vietnam veteran that I haven't experienced about the same thing they do or have. But, you know, there's just some kind of mechanism in me that just didn't, I just didn't let it get to me for some reason or another. Although it got more, you know, later on when I became involved in group stuff, found out it affected me a lot more than I realized. But I worked a lot of those issues out over the years. But a lot of crying and a lot of emotional stuff.
Yeah, but how about the nightmares and stuff like that
Yeah.
people hear?
Oh yeah, I slept with a shotgun when I first got home. I couldn't sleep without a weapon. I had to have a weapon with me. And then I thought I was really making success when I could put the shotgun up against the wall next to the bed.
And this is with your wife too, right? You're married.
Yeah, man. I even got the whole family up in the middle of the night thinking I was under attack one time. You know, and what's really weird, they was with me. They thought they were being attacked too.
Oh.
So it must have been pretty dang convincing. But I saw them, man. They were coming.
Was she perplexed by all of this too? What was her reaction?
You know, the reason she's around today, I think she was so understanding. She just let me unwind. You know, I run the bars for a while, and drank a lot for a while, and that kind of stuff. Got that all out of my system. And she just kept waiting and waiting, and said a few things here and there. You know, I always listened to people anyway. Always been a good listener. And I think one of the reasons why I made it back to Vietnam is I listened. I listened to all the guys that had the experience. I said, how do you do this? Or how can you do this? And they'd tell me, and I'd go by it.
Did you, are you a member of any veterans organization?
I was real active in the Vietnam Veterans of America, established chapters here in Portsmouth as well as at the prison, but I haven't. There's a strange thing about a Vietnam veteran. We just don't feel very comfortable around organizations.
Is there still a chapter out at the prison?
It's
I never heard of that.
you know, Chapter 181, the first chapter in Ohio prisons.
Did you see anybody famous? So did you see Bob Hope?
No, never got to make it. I didn't even see any donut dolls. I saw a few donut dollies, but no movie stars.
How about any generals, famous generals? Did you see Westmoreland or
No.
anything like that?
I never did see, the highest ranked person I saw in Vietnam was a colonel.
Was that a full bird? That was the highest ranking.
Yeah, and we had a good one and a bad one. The first one, we went over we got into our first firefight there, we was getting all these orders to do this, do that, and everybody's getting mad. So where in the hell's he at? We looked up and there's this little old helicopter way up there. And he was down there giving us orders what to do.
He was up there.
Yeah, telling us
radioing
what to do down there.
Maneuver left, maneuver right, and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
so you know, he wasn't well liked, you know, we hated him. And then we got this one guy, I mean, he was dynamite, I wish I could remember his name, but, he was, I mean, if you was in a firefight, he was right there with you. It wouldn't be surprised to look over and you see a colonel right next to you shooting just as much as you are. And I always remember him because we had this one incident where this guy stepped on a 500-pound bomb.
Yeah.
And he looked so bad that, and people were in shock when they saw him. I couldn't get anybody to help me. I was trying to patch up what was left, you know, because he looked, it was just a torso, but it looked like, well, man, maybe the guy might survive. I never gave up on anybody. I never felt like I was in a position to play God. So I was down there trying to work on him, and I was asking for some help to, you know, I looked up on a gigantic hole. You wouldn't believe what a 500-pound bomb does, but it was a gigantic hole. And I look up the top, and everybody's got this big eyes. You could just tell they was in shock. They'd never seen anything like this before. And so I went back to work, and the next thing I know, I got this guy that comes down, you know. I thought, oh man, thank God. So we started working on everything, you know. I'm not paying any attention to who it is. I'm just busy. And I get the best up, I get the bleeding and everything laid down and everything. I thought, well, this is the best he'll ever get, man. You know, we got to get him on the helicopter. The guy helped me carry him up that big old crater type thing. And just as I was putting him on the helicopter, I just happened to catch that colonel bar, you know, and it was a colonel. He actually came down in there and helped me get that guy on the helicopter. And then as he flew off, he said, hey, tell that medic he did one hell of a job.
Colonel did a good job too,
Yeah, he did.
That guy died?
Yeah, he did.
Did you take any pictures while you were over there?
Yeah, but I didn't bring them with me.
You got a big album or a lot of pictures?
Just a few that somehow survived the monsoon. Usually everything, you know, we had guys, one guy he was the dangest guy. He was going to he was kind of an intellectual guy, and every time we'd get into a fight, he'd have his camera, 8mm type thing.
Oh, movie?
Movie, yeah, he'd be filming.
No kidding.
Yeah. It was kind of like the crazy, you know, you see a lot of it in the movies, and there is a lot of we even had one guy in the platoon, you know, a firefight, he was a big time gambler. We'd be in a firefight, and he'd have the cards out, and he'd be trying to make a few extra bucks while we were pinned down.
Did you bring back any mementos, souvenirs, anything like that?
Just the money and
Vietnamese money?
Vietnamese money. I had a nice little straight razor I got, but a lot of times, you know, when you go through the customs, they look at you and you don't need this, they take it from you. Actually, they're stealing it from you. I had an AK-47. I got that stolen away from me. I found a big, you know, we did a good bit of search and destroy mission. Found a big cache of AK-47s. Got all kinds of big accolades about what we did and the amount of arms it was. And the captain said since it was us, everybody in the platoon was going to get an AK-47 and all that stuff. But it ended up it did. As soon as the word got out about that, I guess brass and everybody.
Got your AK-47.
Yeah.
How about anything off of any enemy soldiers or anything?
I had one incident where probably it was, you know, you just said something the other day, it was probably just a few minutes ago about, you know, what was one of the worst times. One of the worst times was we killed this, he was an MBA, he was dressed like an MBA. And as we was walking by him, everybody kicked him, you know. People had a way of knocking their teeth out and putting around their neck and stuff too. So some people had done that too, kicked his teeth out and stuff, made little trophies out of them. But it come by turn, you know, and I was coming by him, you know, I was going to kick him too, and I looked down and something fell out of his back pocket. And I thought, damn, what's that? So I reached over, and it was like a billfold. Opened it up, it was him and wife and 2 kids. I said, man, this guy's just like I am.
Right.
You know, and that hit me. That hit me
That
hard.
would.
Yeah. I never thought of him as having found it. I just thought of him as gooks. You know, that's the way you demoralize. You have to demoralize somebody to kill them anyway. And that's all part of the psychological thing. But when I opened that billfold, it hit me pretty hard.
But what else was in there?
That was just it. Just a picture of his wife and 2 kids.
What did you do with it? What'd
Just
you do
left
with
him lay there.
What'd you do with the billfold?
I don't
Put it back.
know. Put it back in there and let him have it.
What'd you do with your uniform? Do you still have it?
Yeah. Still got some of them.
up in the attic.
Yeah.
Joe, is there anything else you want to talk about? I mean, I asked you this, but I wanted to follow it up a little bit. You got back to Seattle and you had your uniform on. Did you have any problems from anti-war people?
Well, I was scared to death. You know, Mom kept sending me articles about, you know, and I was scared to death. I went through this hell, and somebody's gonna come up behind me and stick me. Because there was so many GIs getting jumped on, stabbed, beat up, you know, and I kept thinking, man, that's not gonna happen to me. So I came back in, I was wired, I was getting ready. And I said, man, it's not gonna happen to me. I'm not gonna let some idiot knock me out after going through this hell. But, you know, I never, you know, I went to the airport, got on, nobody said anything. Of course, I'm kind of like in a daze anyway. I really can't believe that I made it back. I'm still going through this kind of a transitional stage, you know, whether, is this real or is this a dream?
The dirt under your fingernails is still from Vietnam,
Yeah,
and here we are in Seattle. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, just overnight you're out, you're a civilian. I mean, it's just that fast. You know, and later on we realized that's a bad mistake. There has to be some diffusion going on here, some debriefing. You know, a lot of the stuff you see today is because of what happened to Vietnam veterans. And that's one of the things you found out later on. You didn't know at the time. You just want, and I don't know if it worked then or not. Because when we come back, man, we were a force to be reckoned with. I mean, we'd knock your head off. We would shoot you. It didn't matter. We were trained to be and to survive. You know. And if someone said, "Hey, we're gonna keep you an extra day to debrief you," I don't know if I would have been around and tell Vietnam veteran that. So I don't know if that would have worked or not, but they might have developed some kind of system where they could have talked to us maybe and got us convinced that that was the right thing to do. But at the time, we were pretty, because man, you just seem like you're out in the boonies. You're in the, you know, I mean, you know, you're in the combat one minute and you're a civilian the next. And so.
Well, you're in Seattle now, and what happened to you then? Did you get, were you discharged in Seattle? Discharged from the Army, right?
Yeah, they put us in a big room there, and they, of course, you know, Seattle had this thing, I don't know, they had some competition going on with California or somewhere down in there that they could discharge faster than the other ones. They were proud that they got a guy out in 24 hours and all that stuff, so they were real proud of that. And they did a real good job too, man. They was organized. They shipped you here, shipped you here, shipped you here. And one of the things I remember is when they put us in there, you know, and give us this big piece of paper and says, now, if anything's happened to you, I want you to list it in the paper. List this on this paper, you know.
What do you mean happened to you?
Like, you know, you got wounded, or you broke your foot or something, you know, they wanted to put it down there in case you wanted to file a claim on it later on. But the colonels, they just came in, they just kind of, I mean, they just vaguely left, and then this E5 or E6, I think it was, he asked these colonels to leave, you know, that's kind of strange. And the E6 telling the colonels to leave a room. But anyway, they left, and he just turned around to all of us. He said, look, he said, them people there, they want to get you out of this military quick. And one reason why they want to get you out of this military quick, because they don't want to pay you. They don't want to pay you any money. They want you to get you to sign this piece of paper saying nothing happened to you and get you out of here. But he says, I'm telling you, if you stubbed your damn toe, I want you to put it down on that damn piece of paper. No matter what happens, put it down on that piece. Boy, then everybody started writing you down.
So what'd you put down?
Well, I put down, I'd screwed my back up. You know, I carried that one guy out there to hit the claymore. My back went numb on me, and I never really, it took for a few days before it came back, you know. And I messed up my knee in a Jeep. A Jeep got him, you know, I had this, you know, he's kind of an idiot. I was trying to train him how to clean, you know, motor pool Jeep. And he hit the emergency brake, and the motor pool's Jeep was up here, and we was headed right toward where the lieutenant was. You know, and I tried to jump in and get that Jeep, and it got this little thing that hooks around for your little door. And that little thing caught me on that knee, boy, that hurt. It took 2 days I couldn't walk. I got the Jeep stopped.
You wrote that down.
Yeah, that's two things that really hurt me. And I got a disability on the back.
That E6 was looking out for you, man.
Yeah, really, when I think about it,
It really was.
probably, you know, because I would have just signed that piece of paper just to get out of there.
So you're discharged in Seattle?
Yeah. And I'm flying home, you know, and I had this thing with this altitude thing, you know, with my sinuses or something, and my head felt like it was going to split in two. And it was, you know, I kept thinking, man, I gotta hold on to it. But I mean, the pain was so horrendous, I wanted to scream. I was coming into Columbus, and tears was running down my eyes, and I had this old guy, must have been in his probably 60s. And he saw the tears running down my eyes, and he put his arms around him. He said, "Oh man," he said, "this must be pretty horrendous coming back from Vietnam." You know, I know it's quite emotional. I'm sitting there, I'm not even emotional about being back from Vietnam.
You're hurting.
But he was really, you know, sympathetic, you know, so that was kind of nice, you know. So I eloped out at the airport, and my family didn't know I was coming in, because, you know, the way the timelines was. They knew I was coming in, but they didn't know the exact time. So I did get there early, so I thought, well, there's nobody here to pick me up, so I decided to take a bus. I thought if I took the bus
From Columbus to Portsmouth?
yeah, it'd be a nice, easy ride, and I could sit back and defuse, and it worked out pretty good. It was a nice trip through the country, and I was sitting there by the window, and it worked, you know. It was really nice just come down 23 like that. And I went down to, of course, the old bus station where it used to be down there by the river. And I went straight from there and went over to the bar and called Mom and Dad. I'll never forget that either. I went up there to call the phone. I called Mom, said, "Hey man, I'm home. Need somebody to pick me up." Hung up the phone, went back to the table, and the table was full of beer.
For you?
Everybody in that bar bought me a beer. So I had it pretty good going on in that way.
Yeah, okay. Is there anything else you want to say? You got any tattoos you want to talk about?
No, I don't, never believed in tattoos, and never ended up in a tattoo parlor.
Okay.
I guess that's about
Pretty much cover the waterfront?
Mhm.
Thanks a lot, Joe.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Well,
Appreciate it
we did a
very
good
much.
job.
Oh, you did a real good job. We were here an hour and